Let me ask you, what do you think your dad did in raising you that really is right? What did he do right?
Most things he did right, fortunately. Um, my dad still is very smart and a very intellectual man, and so consequently he had some important jobs that required a lot of him, and yet somehow, despite the fact that he was traveling often and was called to work a lot of hours, he was just always there. And like he coached my ball teams all the way up, right? Even though he didn't love baseball that much, but he found a way to coach. And it's astonishing to me still. I don't really understand how he pulled that off. I remember him like leaving practices or games and going back to work until late at night. But he found this way to just be there for me and for my brother and be able to do those things like being a coach of our sports teams, and was just always overjoyed when I know he was dealing with burdens that I didn't even know about, and carrying a heavy weight. Was always overjoyed to be with us, and all the boys that were on the team loved him. All the kids in the Atlanta baseball park wanted to be on Coach Z's team because whenever they saw him, he would light up at them, and they would light up in response. And there was a man that obviously loved them and cared for them, and so many of them the same way didn't have fathers, and he became like their father figure that they stayed connected with for years and years to come, and many he still talks to. And he was the coach that just made sure everyone knew that they were loved by him, and that extended, of course, to his parenting as well. I made lots of mistakes as a kid, as all kids do, and I knew he had high standards for me, and I knew discipline would be carried out. But I was never. I'm not even all that sure how I put it off. I was never unsure that he loved me and that he was proud of me. Those things were always clear.
Is there any particular incident that happened with your dad through the years that just really sticks out in your mind as something that made a big impression on you?
Probably the biggest things are tied to him spending so much time with us and the years they spent fostering children, which I mentioned in passing. But there was a period of time where I was 8, my brother was 7, and they had a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 4-year-old boy, and then they had an infant baby girl, and all those things when they didn't have to. And most of those occasions, just telling the fostering agency that if they needed somebody, they would do it. And so getting a call and that night, unaware, being brought into children. And so obviously that's had a big impact on me and the willingness to love children who are not my own, which I know you were passionate about. And not even just to love them, but to make them mine and to make them part of my family the way that God has done for me. And all those moments of his sacrifice. And, I think I was convinced as like an 8-year-old boy that my parents' dream job was watching me play baseball in the afternoons, and taking me to practice and taking me to games. And honestly, and I was probably 18. I mean, maybe not that old, but probably so. Before I realized that, they may have enjoyed other things more than going to my practices in the afternoons.
I can tell you that.
And the sacrifices that they made, as children we get older, we realize those things, but as you have your own children, you really start to realize the sacrifice that parenting is. That there's almost synonyms to say that a parent is one that sacrifices, and the truth is that we see that biblically that a husband is defined as one who is to give up himself for his wife, to give up himself, this utter sacrifice for the sake of the one that he is with. My dad was always that way for my wife and for us and for everyone around us, and I want to be the kind of man I hope that I have been for my kids and want to continue to be, and want to encourage young men to be the kind of men that live lives of sacrifice.